It seems like I've been on the road for an eternity. A journey where every day seamlessly merges with the one that follows. Where the sensation of novelty intertwines with the familiarity of repetition. I had a straightforward plan: arrive in the city, spend the night, and then board my flight the following morning to continue my journey. I was simply seeking a spot to unwind. The hotel was an exquisite 5-star establishment. A grand, polished structure that appeared to offer both elegance and indulgence. Throughout my journeys, I've experienced numerous hotels, yet this particular one possessed a unique charm that set it apart from the rest. Upon entering, I was greeted by the crisp scent of fresh linen mingling with the allure of high-end perfume, while the marble floors mirrored the opulence surrounding me. I approached the front desk, my suitcase trailing behind me with a soft thud. After a lengthy journey through the skies, fatigue enveloped me, and all I could think about was surrendering to slumber. The first thing that caught my eye was the woman at the counter. She appeared to be in her early 30s, and despite my efforts to look away, her beauty captivated me. Her dark, straight hair cascaded flawlessly over her shoulders, complemented by sharp features and an expression that radiated both warmth and professionalism. She appeared as if she was meant for this environment, her tailored outfit and composed demeanor exuding confidence. "Good evening, esteemed sir. How may I be of service to you?" she inquired, her tone serene and composed. I provided her with my name, and she acknowledged it with a nod while entering something into the system. As she focused on her tasks, I took a moment to glance around the lobby, appreciating the elegance of the chandeliers and the exquisite art adorning the walls. Everything felt so foreign to me, just an ordinary person in a world that appeared a bit too refined for my liking. "Here you go, Mr. Green," she said, interrupting my thoughts as she presented me with a small silver key. "Room 404. Delight in your time here." I gazed at the key, anticipating the familiar plastic card, yet this one stood apart. The key was a timeless piece of brass, exuding elegance and classic charm. There was an unmistakable sense of intimacy about it. Perhaps it was only my perception, but it exuded an air of intrigue, suggesting that the hotel held secrets beyond its outward appearance. "Thank you," I replied, attempting to dismiss the notion. "Could you please guide me to the room?" She beamed with delight. "Simply ride the elevator to the 4th floor, and you'll find it down the hallway on the left. Wishing you a wonderful night ahead." I returned the smile and faced the elevator once more. The entire scenario unfolded seamlessly and with ease. I sensed that I was merely a transient visitor among many. Nothing seemed amiss, yet as I pressed the button for the elevator, a thought hung in the air, refusing to fade away. A tiny spark of intrigue emerged. Perhaps it was merely the ambience of the hotel, or perhaps it was her presence. Something about her sparked a curiosity in me, hinting that this night held deeper significance beyond a mere fleeting encounter. Yet, that notion was quickly cast aside as the elevator doors slid open, and I entered the cabin. Fatigue had settled in. Feeling utterly exhausted. All I could think about was reaching my room, enjoying a refreshing shower, and drifting off to sleep. As soon as I exited the elevator, I sensed a unique, understated allure in the hotel, reminiscent of a setting where the unexpected could unfold. Room 404. I paused before the door, inserting the key into the lock with a deliberate motion. The door creaked open gently, and as I crossed the threshold, an odd sensation washed over me. The lighting was perfectly subdued, and the ambience of the room was exquisite. It was more than just the gentle embrace of the white sheets and the elegant arrangement of the furniture. It felt distinctly unusual. An emotion that seemed out of place amidst the ambience of the hotel. Before I could fully grasp the moment, I caught sight of a small figure perched on the bed, turned away from me. A woman it was. A moment later, she spun around, and there she was. The lady at the reception. Her smile held a hint of surprise, yet she appeared unfazed by my arrival. She exuded tranquility. Excessively tranquil. "A mistake seems to have occurred," I remarked, feeling uncertain about what I was actually observing. "I should be in room 404. She rose gracefully, her motions seamless. "Without a doubt," she answered, her tone gentle. You found the perfect spot. I remained motionless in the doorway, attempting to comprehend the situation. This was not anticipated in the strategy. What brought her to this place? Could this be a misunderstanding of some sort? Yet her expression revealed that she remained unfazed. In her gaze, there lingered a depth, a silent connection, perhaps. She tilted her head slightly, as if sensing my bewilderment, and said, "I'll clarify everything. There's no need for concern." For an inexplicable reason, I found myself believing her. I lingered at the threshold, my fingers wrapped tightly around the door handle, uncertain of my next move. She stood before me, her presence a mix of disquiet and a strange sense of tranquility. The space seemed to shrink in an instant, becoming nearly oppressive. Uncertainty enveloped me, leaving me to question whether I was lost in a dream or had stumbled into an inexplicable scenario that defied understanding. The woman before me, Lara, as I would come to know her, appeared neither panicked nor distressed. She exuded a chill vibe, bordering on unsettling. Her eyes exuded a serene quality that suggested I was the one being overly dramatic. Yet, how could I possibly refrain? This felt quite unusual. I had just received a key to what was meant to be my hotel room, and now I found myself in a space that unmistakably wasn't mine, with her perched on the bed, exuding an air of belonging. "You're in the right place," Lara reiterated, yet her tone lacked the typical authority I had anticipated. Her tone carried a sense of intimacy, suggesting that this had been orchestrated all along. I attempted to clear the fog from my mind. "I just don't understand," I murmured. I found myself assigned to room 404. "Is this room 404, correct?" She nodded, her eyes unwavering. "Indeed, you have reached room 404. I furrowed my brow as I entered the room, scrutinizing my surroundings with greater attention. The room appeared to be an ordinary hotel accommodation. A spacious king-size bed, gentle illumination, contemporary design. Yet, there was an unmistakable shift in the atmosphere, as if the environment had been tailored for another presence. A sense of unease lingered in the air. I cast a quick look over my shoulder at her, still attempting to unravel the mystery. "What's happening here? What brings you to my room?" Her lips formed a subtle, understanding smile. "It's not quite your space, not entirely." "Then why on earth am I here?" I inquired, a hint of exasperation lacing my tone. The entire scenario was becoming more and more peculiar. Lara's gaze became gentle. She rose from the bed and took a few steps in my direction. "I didn't intend for this to occur," she remarked, her voice carrying an unanticipated sense of remorse. "There was an issue with the keys, but it's not exactly an issue. This room wasn't meant for you, yet here we find ourselves." I still wasn't quite on board with her, but I could tell she was genuine, her body language relaxed and inviting. I find myself perplexed. Could this be a misunderstanding of some kind? She nodded, her gaze drifting away from mine for a brief moment. "Indeed, it was, though perhaps not as you might imagine." She hesitated, casting a fleeting look at the door, as if anticipating another presence, then swiftly returned her gaze to mine. "I had planned to enjoy this room all to myself tonight, seeking a bit of tranquility. However, I wasn't meant to be the one to welcome you." I blinked, sensing the palpable tension thickening around me. "What do you mean, I'm not meant to be the one to welcome you?" Lara let out a slow breath. "Honestly, I never planned for our paths to cross in this manner. The hotel staff recognizes me, yet I must admit I'm not quite the guest they anticipate. The tale is extensive, and it weaves a complex narrative." The confusion transformed into an intriguing curiosity. What was she referring to? What brought her here, and why did she give the impression that our encounter was anything but coincidental? Before I could respond further, Lara interjected, "But look, I didn't intend to create any issues. If you prefer, I can take my leave. This was simply an unforeseen circumstance." She was expressing herself so freely about it. Excessively transparent. However, I sensed that she had no intention of manipulating me or playing any tricks. This seemed genuine. She appeared utterly drained. Not in the manner of someone weary from a long day, but as if she bore a burden far more substantial. A profound essence. I found myself in the center of the room, weighing the decision of whether to simply leave. This was not the way I envisioned my evening unfolding. I sought to avoid any drama, wishing to steer clear of entanglements that were beyond my comprehension. All I longed for was to drift into slumber. Yet, there was something in Lara's vulnerability, the way her gaze met mine, almost begging for comprehension, that made me pause. "You don't have to go," I murmured, my voice softer than I had meant it to be. "Let's work together to find a solution." Her eyes sparkled, a glimmer of relief dancing across her features. "Thanks a lot. I assure you that I will clarify everything. I simply aim to avoid any awkwardness." I nodded slowly, attempting to release the tension that had accumulated within me. "All right," I replied, still uncertain about what I was committing to. "Elucidate." Lara inhaled deeply and started to speak, her voice now firm, yet an unvoiced tension lingered in the atmosphere. "I'm here, but not in the way you might imagine. I intended to take the night off, to find some solitude, but upon arriving, I recognized that I couldn't depart without engaging in conversation with someone. The staff is unaware that I reserved this room, and, to be honest, you're the first person I've engaged with in this way for quite some time." Her words lingered in the atmosphere, creating a blend of intrigue and comprehension that enveloped us. As she spoke, I began to understand that perhaps this night was more than just a blunder or a chance occurrence. Perhaps it was something deeper than mere chance that brought us to this peculiar, unforeseen moment, united in this experience. I paid close attention to her words, not entirely grasping the complete meaning of her message, yet sensing that there was a more profound significance beneath the surface. Lara's voice held a calmness, yet her eyes revealed a deeper story. Her expression hinted at a burden she had been bearing, something unspoken, now beginning to emerge in scattered pieces. "I never intended for any of this to unfold," Lara said, her fingers nervously fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. "I intended to be here by myself, but when I came to the realization that I couldn't follow through with my original plan, I sensed a strong urge to be in the company of others. I felt an urge to connect with someone, to engage in conversation with anyone outside the familiar hotel routine. When you arrived, I certainly didn't anticipate this. It was clear to me that she was holding back parts of the story, yet there was an undeniable quality in her voice, a genuine earnestness, that suggested this was more than a mere strange charade. She didn't seem like a person with a well-defined strategy, nor did she appear to be attempting to influence me. She wandered through her thoughts, navigating her own unique path. I shifted restlessly in the room, glancing out the window for a brief moment. The night enveloped the world in a hush, with the city lights gently illuminating the glass in a tender embrace. It was an uncanny sensation, as if the universe outside this space was in motion while I remained ensnared in this peculiar haze of doubt. "So," I said, gathering my thoughts, "you were meant to be here by yourself, but you didn't actually intend to meet me?" Lara gave a slight shake of her head. "No, I had no intentions of meeting anyone this evening. I had no specific plans in mind, honestly. I simply need a moment away from it all." She hesitated, glancing at her feet for a moment, then lifted her gaze to meet mine once more. "I never expected you to be the type of person I would find myself conversing with. It's simply that, I suppose it's difficult to articulate. I've spent an eternity on the opposite side of this hotel. In that moment, I craved authenticity, and the instant I laid eyes on you, it all fell into place." A sudden clarity illuminated my thoughts. The manner in which she expressed it didn't convey any hint of interest in me. No, it was more akin to an urgent desire to escape her monotonous routine and engage in conversation with someone outside her daily existence. And I was the outsider who had drifted into her realm. "Listen," I said, forcing the words down. "I understand that. I may not grasp everything completely, but I'm just here for the evening. I didn't arrive here to get caught up in something strange." Laura nodded, her expression becoming slightly more tense. "I didn't want that either," she whispered. "I prefer to keep things comfortable." I could perceive the fragility within her, the fissures in her composed exterior. She had no intention of seducing me, nor was she attempting to manipulate the situation in any manner. She simply craved recognition. For reasons beyond my understanding, I found myself unbothered. The peculiar atmosphere, the unusual tension that appeared to draw us nearer without any effort on our part, was surprisingly reassuring. It felt as if we were both searching for something elusive, yet neither of us could pinpoint what that something was. Would it be all right if I took a seat? I inquired after a brief pause, my tone gentler as I massaged the nape of my neck. The oddness lingered, yet alongside it, something else was emerging, perhaps curiosity, or maybe simply a desire to uncover the truth of what was unfolding. Laura nodded and settled into the armchair by the window. I will be okay. I'm not quite sure why I'm sharing all of this with you. For ages, I've held everything inside, but now, inexplicably, I'm just letting it all flow out. I found myself seated opposite her, pondering the direction this was headed. It became evident that this was not merely a chance confusion involving hotel keys. Laura lingered in anticipation, and I remained oblivious to the nature of her longing. She was on a quest for understanding, perhaps yearning for someone to recognize her as more than just another figure behind the front desk. What are your typical activities after finishing work? I inquired, attempting to guide the dialogue toward a more typical topic, one that would alleviate any lingering tension. Laura's lips formed a subtle smile as she reclined in the chair, her gaze drifting up to the ceiling for a brief moment. I typically head home and attempt to erase everything from my mind, but tonight, I felt a strong reluctance to return there. I was reluctant to confront the monotony once more. It was at that moment I laid eyes on you. Though I didn't fully grasp it, I could feel that she was attempting to unravel the complexities of her own existence and decisions. Perhaps this hotel, this night, marked the first occasion in a long while when she permitted herself to exhale, to simply exist. No need to clarify it for me. The words escaped my lips before I had a chance to hold them back. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but if you feel like sharing, I'm here to listen. I can't guarantee I'll have the solutions, but I'm present for you. For the first time since we embarked on this peculiar dialogue, Laura appeared to ease her tension. Her shoulders relaxed, and a subtle, appreciative smile graced her lips. Thank you, she murmured softly. This came as a surprise, but it's refreshing to experience a sense of companionship for a change. And just like that, the atmosphere in the room shifted, becoming a touch more familiar. The oddness lingered, yet its burden appeared to ease a bit, giving way to a sensation that felt akin to solace. A bond. It wasn't the type of connection I anticipated upon my arrival at the hotel, yet it was a connection nonetheless. The dialogue with Laura lingered delicately, and for an instant, we were both at a loss for the next step. The moment hung heavy in the air, a curious blend of intrigue and doubt swirling around me. It felt as though Laura had revealed parts of herself to me that she had kept hidden from everyone else. Perhaps it was the facelessness of the hotel, the reality that we were both unfamiliar souls in an unfamiliar setting. Whatever it was, it infused everything with a sense of authenticity, a deeper connection to reality. I find myself at a loss for words. I confessed, my voice softer now. This is truly surprising. Laura let out a quiet chuckle, though it lacked the lightness typically associated with amusement. The sound resembled an attempt to ease the palpable tension that hung in the air. You're telling me, she said, averting her gaze from me for the first time. Her gaze drifted toward the window, as if she were seeking to unravel the mysteries of the night on her own. This is not how I envisioned it all unfolding. It's surprising to find myself engaged in this dialogue with someone I've only just met, yet here we are. She was indeed correct. We found ourselves in this strange predicament, and it was challenging to discern where the limits lay. A part of me yearned to abandon the hotel, to truncate the evening and proceed with my intentions, yet another part found itself captivated by the unfolding mystery. There was an undeniable allure to this interaction, a captivating quality that held my attention and compelled me to listen intently. We lingered in quietude for a while, the atmosphere thick with unvoiced reflections. The clock on the wall ticked softly, drawing my gaze toward it. The hour was growing late, yet the thought of departure lingered, suspended like an unresolved query in the atmosphere. "What was it that made you hesitant to head home this evening?" I inquired, attempting to guide the dialogue toward a new path, distancing it from the discomfort. Lara let out a deep sigh, her eyes fluttering shut for a brief moment as if she were collecting her thoughts. "Everything has felt incredibly overwhelming lately. Each day unfolds in a familiar rhythm. I arrive at work, return home, and repeat the cycle once more. I had planned to take a break, but then everything unraveled. I'm not quite sure how I found myself in this situation with you, but perhaps it's simply that I was in need of a pause. I sought a conversation with someone who would listen without passing judgment or dictating my choices." Her candor surprised me, and I could sense the significance of this moment for her. She sought nothing from me but a willing ear. She was not seeking counsel or affirmation. She was merely attempting to understand her own reality. "I understand that," I remarked, inclining my body just a touch. "Life often falls into a monotonous rhythm. One finds oneself ensnared in a repetitive loop, making it difficult to envision an escape. At times, all you require is a companion to assist you in shattering the routine, even if only for a brief moment." Lara glanced up at me then, her expression easing just a touch. "Precisely. It felt as though I was submerged in monotony, and then you suddenly emerged. Perhaps your arrival was unexpected, yet I believe I was yearning for someone unique to stir things up a bit." Once more, there existed that silent bond. It lacked romance, not truly, yet there was an undeniable connection, a sense that we were both present in that moment, drawn together by a shared need. In that shared understanding, there was a warmth, a bond that softened the peculiar tension, making it feel a touch more bearable. After a brief pause, I finally spoke up, shattering the quiet. I mentioned that my only reason for being here was simply to find a place to rest my head. This conversation has taken me by surprise, but I'm pleased we're engaging with each other. I'm pleased you're someone who will linger in my memory." Lara beamed, and for the first time it was a truly authentic smile. It felt natural, and there was no hint of pretense. It was undeniably authentic. "Likewise," she responded softly. "I believe this is exactly what I was searching for, something genuine." I was uncertain about the direction of this conversation and its duration, yet in that instant, I experienced a sensation I hadn't encountered in ages: clarity. I arrived with the anticipation of an ordinary evening in a hotel, yet I found myself entwined in something that resonated with significance. Even if it was merely for a single evening, we had forged a connection, and at times, that was all that mattered. Lara rose from her seat, making her way to the window to gaze at the twinkling city lights below. Her silhouette was outlined by the gentle illumination of the streetlights, and I couldn't help but observe how transformed she appeared, perhaps more serene, or at the very least, more at ease within herself. "I should probably get going," she said after a moment, her voice calm yet firm. "I wish to leave before my presence becomes burdensome." I rose as well, my thoughts swirling rapidly. The night felt too precious to conclude just yet. I felt the urge to express more, to continue the conversation, to somehow extend this sensation, yet I found myself at a loss for words. "All right," I replied, inhaling deeply, "but just so you know, I'm here if you ever want to chat." Lara acknowledged me with a subtle nod, our eyes locking for just an instant. An unspoken understanding lingered between us, a connection that required no words to convey its meaning. She smiled once more, this time imbued with a sense of conclusion. "Thank you," she murmured gently, "for being there to listen. This evening is one I believe will stay with me forever." Uncertainty loomed over the horizon, yet one truth stood resolute in my mind. This evening would linger in my memory for years to come. It was one of those rare moments when two strangers intersected, and for a fleeting time, their lives intertwined in a way that held significance. Even if it lasted only a single night, it had been undeniably genuine. At times, that's precisely what you require. The morning light streamed through the blinds, creating a gentle radiance that enveloped the hotel room. I awoke to a curious blend of tranquility and unease. I cast a fleeting look at the clock. The clock had just struck 8 in the morning. The hours until my flight to the next country stretched ahead, yet an irresistible compulsion tugged at me to abandon the hotel, to escape this peculiar, unforeseen meeting with Lara. Yet, as time passed, it became increasingly clear to me that I had no desire to do so. I found it difficult to articulate the reasons. Last night unfolded in ways I hadn't anticipated. In a random hotel room, I discovered an unexpected connection with a stranger. The dialogue we engaged in, the bond we formed, there was an essence to it that lingered in my thoughts. I brushed aside the persistent thoughts and rose to put on my clothes. I organized my belongings with precision, as if on autopilot. The zipper of my suitcase broke the stillness of the quiet room with an unexpected sharpness. As I drew it shut, a knock echoed at the door. My heart raced, and before I could process it, I found myself moving to respond. There she stood. Lara stood before me, radiating the same beauty she had the night prior. Her eyes were a bit swollen, suggesting a lack of rest, yet there was a distinct shift in her demeanor, a newfound sense of stability and tranquility. She wore a relaxed outfit, as if she had simply chosen to leave the hotel for a moment of fresh air. Yet, an instinct whispered that this encounter held more significance than a mere social call. "Hey," she murmured, her voice retaining the gentle serenity it held the previous night. "I simply wished to bid farewell, in the right way." Her words caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but marvel at how she appeared to have journeyed all the way to my doorstep just to express that. Yet, I found myself at a loss for words. A sense of relief washed over me as I prepared to leave, ready to embark on the next chapter of my journey. Yet, there was another side of me, an unexpected facet, that yearned for this moment to linger a little longer. "I believed you had already bid farewell last night," I remarked, a subtle smile playing on my lips. We engaged in conversation for hours on end. I believed that was the end. She took a small step back, glancing down at her shoes for a brief moment before locking her gaze with mine once more. "I suppose I simply wanted to ensure that nothing was left unexpressed." I acknowledged with a slow nod. "I comprehend." This moment carried a sense of conclusion, and I believe we were both aware of it. "I understand," I replied. "It's simply strange, don't you think? How swiftly everything transforms. In an instant, we transition from being unfamiliar to intertwined." Laura smiled, yet the expression carried a hint of melancholy beneath the surface. "Indeed, it is. However, I believe this was necessary for me. I sought the company of someone who would accept me without judgment or preconceived notions. I feel like I've been trapped in my own existence for far too long." Our conversation last night felt like a breath of fresh air. It was hard to fathom the words that reached my ears. It encapsulated all my emotions as well. This connection we shared had pierced through something deep within both of us. Neither of us had anticipated it, yet it unfolded, and now, as we found ourselves in this moment, I recognized it had impacted me more than I was willing to acknowledge. "I hadn't arrived with any expectations," I remarked, suddenly realizing the depth of my conviction. "However, as you mentioned, I believe this was something I needed as well. Simply conversing. To an individual unaware of my past burdens. It can be quite simple to overlook, don't you think? Lose sight of your true self when you constantly strive to meet the expectations of others." Laura's gaze grew tender, and she moved nearer to me. "I understand your perspective. I believe it's best to maintain simplicity in this matter. Without any obligations. A fleeting moment that requires no explanation." An unvoiced truth hung in the air between us throughout the night. We had no desire for anything beyond that. This wasn't a sweeping romance. It may not have been destined, yet it held significance. At times, that's precisely what you require. A bond. A fleeting insight. And then you release it. "I doubt I'll ever forget you, Laura," I murmured, my tone gentler now. "You stand out in a way that's truly unique." She offered me a subtle, understanding smile. "I feel the same way, Kyle. I feel the same way." We lingered in that moment, words unspoken, allowing the silence to envelop us. A sense of finality washed over me. The conclusion of our short yet significant meeting. Nothing further was required. This sufficed. Laura extended her hand and gently rested it on my arm. A gesture that seemed conclusive, yet held an unexpected warmth. "Take care of yourself," she murmured, her voice soft and delicate. "Me too," I responded, my voice heavy with the significance of the occasion. And just like that, she vanished into thin air. I lingered in the doorway for what felt like an eternity after she departed, the stillness of the hotel room enveloping me. I arrived with the intention of spending just one night, anticipating a typical, uneventful experience. What I discovered was utterly surprising. A fleeting yet genuine bond with a stranger who, in her unique manner, illuminated new perspectives for me. As I shut the door, a peculiar tranquility washed over me. There were no grand farewells, no vows, no heartfelt revelations. It was merely two souls intersecting, exchanging something significant, and then continuing on their separate journeys. In that simplicity, I discovered a force more potent than I ever imagined. The descent in the elevator was serene, and as I emerged into the lobby, a sense of normalcy enveloped me once more. Yet, in my thoughts, the evening I shared with Laura would linger long after I took my next flight. There are moments that linger in your mind, even if they are fleeting and last just a single night.